What's happening, guys? Good morning. Good morning to you. It's Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. This morning, we're going to do a little episode. It's been a minute since we did one of these. Ask me anything. I've been getting some questions in the DMs, both on Instagram and Facebook. And so I figured I'd take a minute this morning, cover some of those questions, and give you guys an opportunity to ask anything you might be curious about. Let's get started.
It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up.
All right. Good morning. Good morning to everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's hump day. Happy to be here with you guys this morning. And I've been getting a fair number of questions, which, when I get those, I usually get triggered to do one of these episodes of Ask Me Anything. So I got a handful of questions here that people have sent in already. And I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to kind of just ask whatever it is that you want to ask me. And I'm happy to share anything that you might be curious about with you guys with regard to, how we do things, any sales advice. I got some sales questions here that people have sent in, and just wanted to share that with you guys this morning. So I figured if there's a lot of people asking a lot of questions, and I know this time of year is really a time of year when people are trying to, either look to next year to convert some sales, or just finish this year kind of strong. So that's probably why I got some sales questions. But figured I would answer those questions live here so that, I could share it with everybody in case everybody else had the same questions, or some of you have the same questions. But want to say good morning to some folks. What's happening? Chris Filippelli, my wife's on here. Love you, babe. Carla, good morning to you. Jeff Nelson, my brother, good morning. Jared Bird, good morning to you. Tammy, always great to see you. Jeff Baker, Dayton Packard, Mike Rosgoni, good morning to you guys, and thank you guys for being here. So the first question that I got, I guess somebody that watches this show hasn't gotten the full scope of kind of what the morning routine looks like. So they asked what my morning routine looks like. And I just wanted to cover that with you guys to give you an idea. I think first and foremost, I'll start before I tell you what it looks like or what I do every morning. I just want to stress the fact that I am a believer that morning routine, that having a routine in general, but specifically the morning routine, is the most important thing I believe that you can do to create success in your life. It is just a critically important piece of creating momentum, of creating rhythm in your day, and really being able to control the day. I think it starts in the morning, right? So my alarm is set at least at 5:30 in the morning. Sometimes it's a little bit earlier, depending on what I've got going on or what I want to accomplish. Depending on the day, I am jumping on the Peloton or doing some sort of workout for 45 minutes every morning. Try to do that as often as I can. I get a shower. I do get the getting ready thing, and then I go downstairs. I get my stuff together, and I take off for the office. And when I get to the office here, I sit down, and I've got a couple of books that I go through. They are sitting right here. So I've got Daily Moments of Strength, which is some scripture that I read. And I've got the Maxwell Daily Reader that I go through. And then I've got my planner that sits here right beside me on my desk. And I write down my goals. I write down what I'm focused on. I write down my daily tasks, what I need to accomplish. I've got a lot of stuff in this planner that kind of creates that rhythm to my day. So I've got daily goal setting. I've got a quote of the day that I write down. So I just kind of whatever focus I have or whatever mood I'm in for that morning, I write down something, quote of the day. Today's critical task. So what are the 4 things that I absolutely have to get done this morning to consider the day a success? I have a slot here for today's successes. So as the day goes on, I'm writing the things down that were successful, because as we all know, not every day is a good day, but there's always successful parts of every day. I have a section for planning forward, so the things that maybe don't get accomplished today that needed to, that are on the to-do list. And then I have today's book and audio book, and then today's motivational video and podcast. So typically, like on my way to work today, I was listening to a John Maxwell book. I usually watch a video either before or after this show, depending on the timing of whether I get to the office. But I'm always trying to pour positive energy into myself, some focus, somebody that I look up to as a mentor, whether I work directly with them in a coaching program or something like that or not. There are people that I watch their content to kind of refocus myself, to get myself back on track, to make sure that I'm headed in the right direction. And then the other side of my planner, the right side of the planner, is my to-do list and the daily schedule. So it starts from 7 a.m. and goes to 7 p.m. And I fill that in and make sure that, I've got everything kind of lined out for the day. So I can't stress enough to you guys the importance of that morning routine, because the minute that we step into the day, I think you all would agree, there is a chance instantly for chaos every day, right? There's things that happen at 8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m., sometimes earlier than that in our world, especially in construction, that are not planned for, right? There are things that send us send us in the wrong direction, right? So we've got the ability to control that through what we create in the morning, the rhythm and the momentum that we create in the morning via our morning routine. And so what I've learned over the years is that morning routine and creating a routine for people is one of the most important things that you can do for yourself and for those people around you. I've mentioned this on the show before, but when everything happened in 2020 here with the pandemic and all the things that were going on, I guess back in March and April, one of the things that we did as a team, as a company, was that we created rhythm to every single day. So we had a meeting every morning that created rhythm for our team, that brought us together, allowed us to communicate. And that is it's the most important thing that you can do, especially, the more difficult, the more adversity that you face, the more important that morning routine, or that routine in general, becomes. So if you can create rhythm for people, and you can create that environment where people feel, part of something, and they feel like everybody else is kind of doing the same thing with them, you will definitely create some level of higher success than what you have right now. So that is the morning routine question. If you guys have any questions here this morning, feel free to drop them in the comments here, and I will answer them live for you, no problem. Patricia, so great to see you. Happy Wednesday to you as well. Good morning, Judd Burden. Good morning, David Martin. Hope you guys are doing well this morning. So the second question that I got in DMs here, I think it was 2 days ago, was what is your best tip for acquiring new clients? And that kind of has two different answers to it, depending on what you're trying to do. So if it is a question of how of acquiring a client for this year. So, if you're in the construction business, you got kind of a race to the finish in front of you here in most of the country. And so, you're going to want to be a little bit more efficient with your time and be a little bit more aggressive, I guess is the best way to put it. Aggressive is a touchy word to use, because you got to put some definition behind that for people to not, go crazy and kind of turn people off. But if you're trying to do that this year, you need to, number one, not waste any time, kind of get in front of people as quickly as you can, and then be able to have a very precise and succinct value proposition, value message that you can deliver to them. I would highly recommend that you utilize the video to communicate that message. So you can sit in front of a camera like this one, and you could talk to them about your company, about why you think your company is a good fit to work with them, and about exactly what you think that you can accomplish for them and how you can make their life easier. Remember this one thing when you're trying to acquire new clients. There's a lot of misconception in the world about, how to sell people and what clients are really making their decision of who to do business with on, right? What drives them to make a decision? And I'm going to tell you that in my experience of, just over 20 years of being in sales, that the number one thing that people are looking for is for a company or an individual that they believe can solve their problems. and all the rest of it. There's a lot of details that go behind that. In our world, being able to execute the work, having quality work performed, how you manage jobs, all of that stuff definitely matters. But the number one thing is that you have to understand a client's problems to be able to create that differentiation that makes it an easy and quick decision for them to choose your company or you to do business with. And so when you're trying to do that quickly, that becomes a little more challenging. So it requires a little bit of upfront research or maybe some knowledge. So I would, if you were trying to acquire new clients at the end of this year, I would start with those clients that you have some knowledge of, right? So if you have some knowledge of people, you can customize that approach to a video message to them, prospect via email, via phone, send them handwritten stuff in the mail. I would hit them from all angles, but I would definitely try to go as quickly as possible, just so that you get in front of them fast and then deliver a customized message as with as much information as you can about how you can solve their specific problems. And that's difficult if you don't know anything about the client, because you don't want to assume that they have problems and be incorrect, but you want to make sure that there is something in your message that you believe is a problem that exists for them that you can take away. So let's flip that to if you are looking for clients for next year. So, the end of this year, you're starting to connect with people that you might want to do business with in 2021, more of a strategic approach, right? The way that I would recommend cold calling, and again, this takes a little bit of knowledge and training, but certainly you can learn this as you go too, just like you learn anything else, trial by error, right? But I would say that when you're looking for clients long-term that you want to acquire, the best way to acquire them is to go all in on everything that you can find out about that client. Don't just go out and start calling or emailing or mailing hundreds of people. Invest time into your research. In our world, that would include going and visiting a property, maybe capturing some video content of you and your company on one of their properties, just taking a look, trying to gain some knowledge so that they see your commitment to wanting to do business with them. Customize your approach and do everything that you can to research that company. One of the things that I do with larger customers is I read their financial reports. I do research on kind of where their company is at that moment in time. There's a lot going on, and especially in 2020. So if you are knowledgeable about some of the challenges that not just that individual is having, or not just their facilities or property management department is having, if you are knowledgeable about some of the challenges that their company may be facing, then you're going to get more of somebody's time because they understand that you took the time to research it. You're going to get a much higher response rate, approval rate from your emails, from your phone calls, things like that. And the last tip that I would give you is do not pressure people. In 2020, you guys have to remember, in the world of sales in 2020, there is such an ability to have so much activity flying at these people, of people trying to sell them, not solve their problems and serve them, that if you blend in with those other people who are just, creating noise in their world and not really trying to solve a problem or provide them with value, you're going to be cast into that same category, right? Their response is going to be in line with what it would be with everybody else. So I hope those tips are helpful with regard to acquiring new clients. If you guys have any other questions, or you want to, get deeper into that conversation, if that's something I'm focused on right now, certainly shoot me a DM and I'd be happy to take a couple of minutes to talk through that. It's one of the things that I enjoy most, focusing on acquiring new clients for our company, because it's really cool to be able to get in and solve new problems, right? To hear, similar problems, but a little bit different, and then creating a customized solution and approach to solving those problems. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys. Matt Lee, how do you plan your content for this podcast? Great question, man. And let's see, whether I have a podcast or a team to motivate, I want to be intentional how I pour into them and build them up. Yeah. I would say, Matt, that is, I'll answer it two ways. So, this is episode 211. So obviously my planning now is a lot different than it was in the beginning. So it just depends where you are in the process of, kind of getting started versus, how you do it once you get into it is, it gets a little bit easier. But as I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm having conversations with people, I'm talking to clients. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of light bulbs that go off every day on challenges that people have. These questions that come in DMs. You start to realize a trend of things that are going on in the world. Like 2000, I've done a lot of episodes on the challenges of kind of maneuvering through this different year that we have. So what I do is when those things trigger something in me that I think, hey man, a lot of people can probably benefit from, this exact question that somebody's asking me, or this exact challenge that a customer is having. When I feel like that's a topic that people could benefit from, you could go through my phone and you could see all of the notes that I write down. There's a significant number, and I just literally type something in there. And then when I have some downtime, late at night before I go to bed, or early in the morning, if I get some time before this show, I start to, bullet point out some of the conversation that I would like to have with you guys. And it gets real easy as you continue to do it to just kind of line item those things and have talking points, and then, expand that conversation from those talking points. Sometimes I get, kind of in a place where I can see not just, one episode, but I can see, 3, 4, 5 in a row that kind of build on each other. And I'll lay those out the same exact way. I'll try to think about, like, how would I like this information delivered to me, or how do we build upon this from day 1 to day 5 to kind of, mold something so that the message makes sense to people. It's one, when I started Top Contractor School, that was one of the most challenging things to do, was not sharing information, but rather sharing information in a sensible format that allows people to learn and build upon what it is that they are learning, right? So you can't start at the end and work backwards. You have to make sure that what you're teaching, especially from a sales process standpoint, building a company, a leadership standpoint, how do you deal with those kinds of things? It's really important for you to get that content in the right order, so that you can make sense to people as you're delivering that content. You want it to be most effective for them. Angela, let's see here. Good morning. Brian, how do you handle difficult clients that are slow paying and use every excuse not to pay timely for the work that has been satisfactorily performed? I've researched this particular corporation and can't seem to find any negative reviews. I think, Angela, that is a great question, and it's something that I think everybody deals with at some point. And I think that number one, it starts up front with having the right expectations, making sure that we have those conversations up front. Most of the time when we have challenges in business, we can kind of take those challenges back to a place where we probably skipped a step in the process, right? Or we probably made an assumption that everything would be okay, or maybe we didn't look at the contract, and there's always exceptions to that. And if you're dealing with one of those exceptions, I would say that the best way it is handled is just polite persistence, because everyone knows that a financial transaction needs to take place for work performed. And so I think that it's making sure that you stay in front of them. Don't assume that they know or that someone's aware that you haven't been paid. Make sure that you're documenting that you're sending emails or letters or however you want to do that, but making sure that you've got open communication with that company, and that you're setting very specific goals as to when something is going to be delivered. Because, so for example, Angela, if they are already overdue, if they were supposed to pay you in 30 days and it's at 55 days, on the 55th day, you're going to want to write them something that requires a response with a date attached to it as to when that's going to happen. And so you want to just, professionally make some commitments so that you can get control of that situation. It's not about controlling the customer. It's about getting control of the situation. And you do that by getting very specific in what you're looking for, what the situation is, and make sure that you're talking to the right person, and that multiple people in that company are on the same page with regard to how it's going to be handled. Too many times in my career, I have talked to one person at the company, and then that story has changed because it wasn't collaborated with someone else. So when I send emails, we try to typically send those emails to a couple people, so send it to one, copy the other, just to, again, make sure that there's multiple people within that company on the same page. So I hope that helps, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you offline about that to try and help that situation if I can. Scott, what made you decide to make your faith such a big part of Morning Perspective? Great question, man. There's a lot of reasons to that, man. And it's been kind of just on my heart, on my mind, that I think, this has been a year where I've found a lot of people attracted to that conversation. A lot of people have, had a need for that this year in 2020. And it's really been on my heart. I guess God put it on my heart to just kind of share more of that journey. I think that, I would be selling all of you short if I didn't share that part of my journey, because I don't think that you can understand exactly who I am as a whole if I don't share that. And the last part, and probably the easiest part, is that I hope by sharing that with people who are maybe in the situation that I have been in the past before I had, such a strong faith. I hope that people are inspired to explore that, because it is by far the greatest gift that we can have is to have that peace and that faith in our hearts. And I think it is an important part of perspective in general, for us to be able to have the best perspective on life, on every aspect of life, right? On life, on death, on birth. It requires us to have a strong faith, and to understand our faith, and to lean into that faith, and to be willing to share it. And, that is a topic that, was on my mind for a long time. And the reason that, I had to think through that is I never want to push anyone away. That was my original thought. And then as I thought through that process, I thought, man, how many people am I selling short by maybe not inspiring them to find their faith, to explore that topic, versus, kind of my own personal human fear of, potentially offending someone, which I would never want to do. But at the same time, I felt like, it would not be, I'm not telling the whole story if I don't cover that topic and share what it has done for me and what it has done for my family, and, how it has enabled me to deal with challenges in life with much more ease, and have the right perspective, and, give people grace that, maybe in the past, before I had that level of faith, I wouldn't have been able to. And so I hope that answers your question, man. It's an important part of my life. It's the most powerful thing that I have at my disposal to use in this world. And I hope that, for those of you who maybe have sat on the sidelines of faith, that, maybe something that I say here in the morning will push you to, or inspire you to go explore that. And I promise you, if you do, it will be the greatest gift that you've ever had in your life. And it'll be something that you cherish in a way that's indescribable. The last question that I have here, 7:59, so we'll cut it off after this question, but I got, who is your favorite sales coach? Which is a complicated one to ask a guy like me, because I've spent so much much time, reading and researching different sales experts over the years. But, I would say if I was to, answer that question with one person, it's got to be Grant Cardone, because I think that the guy definitely changed the course of my sales career the most. I don't use every type of tactic that Grant teaches or that Grant's team would use, because we come from a very different place with, a strategic sales approach as opposed to, kind of a volume sales approach, as I said before. So, for me, it's about, value investment into the customer, into the prospect, so that, we can deliver the most customized solution and really focus on solving their problems, as opposed to that kind of volume, big group of salespeople in a room, kind of boiler room type of thing. So, I don't use every tactic, but Grant Cardone is somebody that I go to for motivation, inspiration, focus, that just absolute massive action approach. And I balance that with, the biggest inspiration and guidance that I have is being part of the Arete Syndicate. So that is a coaching program that is led by Ed Milet and Andy Frisella. And that program is really focused on, values and building your company the right way, doing things that other people wouldn't do. And it is the most exceptional coaching program that I've been a part of, not just from the content standpoint, but from the people that are involved in that program. I have a lot of people who have become really good friends of mine who are part of that Arete group, and it has made a massive impact on my life. But I would encourage you guys to find those people in your life that, when you're a little off track, you can go back and forth. Agreed, Mr. Callaway. Zig Ziglar is another huge inspiration. There's so much there, and that kind of blends the sales and leadership approach with faith, and I'm a big fan of that as well. So Dina slipped a question in here. What type of marketing, advertising format, content do you feel has been the most successful for a new company? How does that change based on time of year? Definitely it is. This may not be the answer you're looking for, but it is consistency and it is omnipresence, without a doubt. It is, being in as many places as you can, leveraging tools, acquiring tools that allow you to be omnipresent. So on every platform, I like to say your marketing should meet people where they are. Definitely, from the standpoint of, if somebody's on LinkedIn or you're in a business that would be popular on Pinterest, you should be on Pinterest. You should be on every social channel that you can touch. There are ones that we don't get a lot of activity on that we still post to nonstop, because you never know. And you're not looking for 1 million customers. You're looking for that number that you need. And so every single one makes a difference. And so I would tell you that, certainly video content, Dina, is the most powerful. It gets people to know you, to have a feel for you and your company and what you guys stand for and all that stuff. And I don't think that, I think that the content's going to change based on what you need to accomplish at that time of year. When you're in the middle of the season and you're doing work, the content's probably going to be driven by, being out there in the field. So, I think that reality-based content, so like, giving them a look inside of, what goes on all the time, is what people like to see the most. I think, they like to get to know people. And when they know people and they trust, then they are very likely to do business with you. So hope that was helpful, guys. We ran a couple minutes over this morning. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. And I will, of course, see you tomorrow morning, same place, same time, right here on Morning Perspective. Thank you for the questions, guys, and love you guys. Talk to you soon.